LP sales have been steadily growing for a couple years now, and we are supplying a market that exists. Plenty of consumers are buying and enjoying analog records. Moreover, we are confident that even in the second half of the 21st century, people will still be listening to analog records. We have already made a similar experience with shellac records.
This is a shellac record from about 1900, and this is a gramophone from 1930. We can still play this 120-year-old disc on a 95-year-old playback device.
You can store a vinyl record in a box in your basement, and chances are it will still play back perfectly in 50 years.
Even NASA shares this belief.
In the Voyager program, they assumed that analog records could last for centuries and remain fully decodable.
And so do we.
But isn't digital technology much more future-proof and durable in the long run?
Well, the situation could be quite different for this flash drive, which contains a digital file. Will this file still be readable in 100 years?
When the SACD entered the market, companies like Universal were already producing exclusively in PCM.
At the same time, DVD audio was being discussed,
which could support high-resolution PCM audio, but Universal Music and Deutsche Grammophon rejected it due to the lack of copy protection. DSD, on the other hand, had copy protection more or less built in
and also offered the opportunity to sell new hardware.
Within the parent company of Universal Music, only the Japanese branch has consistently supported the DSD format.
Largely because SRCDs found particular success on the Japanese market.
When a high-bit PCM version is available, DSD files can always be created from that.
Doing it the other way around would only degrade the quality.
DSD files are extremely large compared to PCM, difficult to process, require significant computing power, and are not supported by standard digital audio workstations.
That's why we don't produce in DSD. It's simply not practical in a professional workflow.
When clients request DSD images, we are happy to provide them.
But they are always generated by a 24-bit PCM master. As part of the original source series, we work with tapes that are up to 50 years old.
While they are still in good condition, it is uncertain how much longer that will remain the case. To document and preserve the analog signals as accurately as possible,
we capture a new 2-track stereo down mix to half-inch analog tape.
As some of you have already guessed, we digitize the signal at 192 kHz and 24-bit, not because it is our target medium,
but simply because it doesn't cost anything.
This digital recording primarily serves as a reference for test pressings evaluation down the road, allowing us to verify exactly what was fed into the coder head. The idea that these digitized mixes could simply be released as is oversimplifies the process. While it would theoretically be possible, it would lack the essential digital mastering step required to meet proper digital specifications.
We firmly believe that the best results can only be achieved when the music signal is tailored to the specific characteristics of the target medium. That's why it doesn't make sense to transfer a mix optimized for LP directly onto a CD.
We very deliberately produced the original source only for LP because we want to avoid thinking about the limitations of the digital world.
A perfect example of this are the 2 hammer blows in the 4th movement of Mahler's 6th Symphony.
When left uncompressed, these are about 6 dB louder than any other passage across Mahler's entire symphonies.
For the analog release, no compression was necessary,
as only 2 out of 1,000 grooves on the record have slightly larger excursions. The impact of these high amplitudes on playing time or groove spacing was therefore negligible.
In the digital world, there's an absolute limit to the peak level.
If the peaks caused by the hammer blows were left unprocessed, the entire CD box set would sound 6 dB quieter. This equals half the sound pressure level or a fourth of the sound power, only to accommodate those 2 loud impulses. Dynamic processors, such as limiters and compressors, are used in the digital domain to subtly keep these peaks in check without audible distortion. If the target medium is a digital release, analog-to-digital conversion has to occur at some point.
And it makes the most sense that this happens as early in the process as possible.
Processing individual tracks instead of a full mix is of course more flexible, less noticeable, and more effective. Many adjustments are a lot easier to carry out with the help of modern digital tools, which is of course very convenient.
A good example is Carlos Kleiber's Beethoven Symphony No. 7.
On one of the channels, only certain takes were recorded with a faulty Dolby noise reduction unit that produced high-frequency noise.
This had to be filtered heavily each time on one of those takes was used.
Fixing this in the digital domain was only a matter of minutes, using sophisticated spectral cleaning tools.
Which are only available in PCM, by the way. Let's hear the original analog tape. And now after spectral cleaning.
For the original Source series release, it was extremely complicated.
Especially because it had to be done in real time during the cutting process, just by using an analog filter.
Another example is the Strauss Vier letzte Lieder recording with Karajan. At the time of the recording, American military was stationed in Berlin. The Jesus Christuskirche is in the direct vicinity of an AFN radio transmitter. If you listen very carefully to the ending of number 2, you can faintly hear some interference. Some piece of recording equipment was apparently not properly shielded, acted as an antenna, and picked up the radio signal.
This is audible on the original release as well.
Rainer had heard it when he checked the tapes and thought it was fine. I didn't even hear it while cutting because it's very faint and the noise from the lathe covered it. Only when checking the test pressings I noticed it, and when I told Rainer,
I pointed out that the signal is already on the original tape.
Consequently, I told him,
we have to redo it and I have to do a better job of masking the interference. Listen carefully to the original recording which has been released. I will boost the level a little bit for you.
If anybody knows the name of the radio host that will forever be part of this legendary recording and original pressing, please leave a comment below.
And thanks to Sydney, you won't hear it on our new original Source release.
The standard digital workflow therefore involves digitizing the tapes first, after which all mixing, mastering, and restoration processes take place in the digital domain. Only after all of this do we create the required masters for CD, streaming, SACD, and so on.
However, the basic principle remains the same. We return to the original source.
Whether it's the original series, the Japanese SACDs, or the new Atmos releases, along with high-resolution stereo masters, all of them follow this approach.
Only the workflow is digital.
In the case of Mahler's Symphony No. 2, both a digital and an analog remastering were done by Rainer basically during the same time period.
And you are invited to hear and discover these differences. The approach and vision were the same in both versions, just with different means of achieving them.
There are others which may sound noticeably different from the new OSS releases.
For example, with different reverb, EQ, or overall balance.
However, they were all created with the same care, dedication, and musical philosophy that we still uphold today.